Whether by PC, pod or pad you are listening to Paid to Play, I'm Rob Farker, your host for this exploration of the dangerous idea that bringing your whole self, especially the parts that you worry make you seem silly, geeky or odd, into your income-generating life is one of the best things you can do. It might not be easy, but it's easier than we think and even fear. And with the help of my guest for this episode, I would like to show you how. It's interesting how things can work out sometimes. A couple of weeks ago, I was at Black Comics and Collectibles, the business that is co-run by one of my co-guests for episode 3, Mal Simmons. And we were talking about, of all things, well, I suppose I was talking about being able to view PDFs like the Pathfinder Core rulebook role-playing game that I had recently purchased as a PDF download, and the various things that you could view them on, and how my alternatives were basically a computer screen and my smartphone, neither of which were exactly ideal. And all of a sudden, this other fellow who is in the store as well pipes up and starts talking about how the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 is an ideal tablet for viewing PDFs on, especially as the screen is pretty much sized at the A4 paper dimensions. Now, unfortunately, Microsoft Surface Pro 4 is still way out of my price range, but it kicked off a great discussion. That gentleman's name was Shane Gibson. He runs a website called The Geek Cave, on which he talks about all kinds of things geek-related, but very specifically the technology that we all interact with on a daily basis. Shane is a very keen technologist, so much so that he has become a trusted beta tester for many companies. He often receives advance copies of not quite ready for public release yet technology to look over, find out what is great from a user's perspective rather than someone who has been in the cycle of developing the product for the last few months to few years, and perhaps what doesn't work quite as well, what's hard to understand, and even pushing the system to its limits so he can find out where the bugs are for the manufacturers. For a while, the Geek Cave was Shane's own business. It was basically his content advertisement site for him being a consultant on a freelance basis for anyone who was just struggling with their technology. However, in the end, that wasn't quite to Shane's preferences for a job. And when the opportunity to work for the local branches of National Franchise Radio came up, Shane leapt on it and has not regretted it since. It was fantastic getting to meet Shane at Black, and it was doubly fantastic getting him on the show. Shane, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming on the Pay to Play podcast.
Thank you. I'm quite excited to be here.
So, Shane, imagine that once this episode wraps up, I give you a magic ticket, which is good for being able to do one thing that you're keen to either try out or get back to, as well as a magical schedule rearrangement to allow you enough time to do that thing. What would be on your shortlist?
It definitely would have to be getting back into helping people with technology and bits and pieces that I was doing with the consultant stuff, as you mentioned before. I really love doing that. It's so good being able to go into somebody's house, fix something up, and for them to go, "Oh, that's amazing, you're a genius," and I'm sitting there going, "No, I just pressed the right button that nobody ever explains to you that this is the button you're supposed to press, not the other ones," sort of thing. And that's what I really enjoy doing. Unfortunately, I'm not so great with paperwork, getting invoices out to people. I'm a sucker for going, "Oh no, it's all right. It only took me 5 minutes. I won't charge you this time," and that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, definitely something I really enjoy doing is helping people out. And like you said, in the comic book store, anytime somebody mentions something in technology, I'm always advocate to voice my opinion, say what I think it is. I'm also never, like I said, I won't push something. I won't sit there and say, "Oh, this is the only way you must go." But I always like to say, "Well, here's options," sort of thing. So yeah.
It does seem to be one of the good things about the state of current technology is that it does give people a lot of options. There's no one specific way, if ever there was, to do something.
Oh, definitely the case. I used to be a big Microsoft, well, I still am a big Microsoft fanboy. I do have Microsoft everywhere. I was running Windows 10 for a good couple of years before it came out, testing it on different devices, including my phones. I've got a Windows phone that I really love as a phone, terrible for apps, but great as a phone, and other bits and pieces. But in this day and age, any device can actually do pretty much anything. My wife has Macs. Everything's Mac. She's got iPads, Mac computers, iPhones, all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing these days she can't do with the things like Google Chrome and Firefox, which means that you have full access to the web and all the browser's content and all that sort of stuff. So we aren't really restricted anymore into saying, oh, well, if you want to do this photo editing and all that, you must have a Mac, or video editing, you must have a Mac. Well, these days, the exact same products you can get on Mac, you can get on Windows. And the same thing, for word processing, for all that, it's all on Macs, it's all on Android, it's all on Linux. You can get it for everything these days, so, yeah.
Yeah, it does seem an incredible thing. I mean, I still remember the days when I was coming up in the 90s when it was, and, you know, in the early to mid-2000s when it was pretty much acknowledged within the tech industry if you did want to edit graphics or if you did want to produce video, then you really needed an Apple Mac or some flavor of that. But yeah, now, and in some cases, especially with audio editing software, like say Audacity, it's amazing how much you can actually get with paying very little to nothing.
Yeah, there is. Audacity is a great example of that. In the radio industry, they like to use Adobe Audition, and that's a sound editing program. It's great. It's very professional. Audacity can pretty much do everything that Adobe Audition can do. It's just a different way of doing it. It's learning different where buttons are, the different terminology for different things that are there. We have the same thing if you're into Photoshop and you like doing that, but you can't afford the Photoshop program. There's one called GIMP, which was originally a Linux-based program. Now it's on everything. You can download that, and again, it can do everything Photoshop can do. It's just a lot more complicated to figure out where it is because there's not as many people using it. But as the people do start to use it, it becomes easier to find on the web with a bit of searching and looking around.
Because if one person gets frustrated with not being able to figure out how to do something and then just gets stuck in and does it, odds on that person is going to say, hey, everybody, you ever tried doing this? Has it ever wound you up the wall like it did me? Well, guess what? Here's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I've even found sites which literally have lists of the terminology that they use in Photoshop and the terminology they use in GIMP. And so you can actually look across and you go, I want to do removing background. Well, in GIMP it's called this. And so you go, okay, now I know what I'm looking for when you go through this for the menus and stuff like that. And actually a really big part of this is something Microsoft's even understanding these days. Microsoft used to be similar to Macintosh. You bought a Windows PC, it had Windows on it. If you wanted to run Word and Excel and that, you had to have the Windows PC and tried to keep you in that sort of, in their ecosystem sort of thing. Whereas the Microsoft of this day and age, they're more so of bring your own device. So you can bring any device and you can use any program, any product. It's no longer the case that a Windows PC, a Windows phone is the best place to get Microsoft stuff. It's anything. Apple or an iPhone is actually better than a Windows phone if you have a Hotmail account, if you have Excel, Word, and all that sort of stuff as a web versions and all that. So the tech industry is starting to understand that as well. So and it's a big change. Unfortunately, people like Mac don't understand that. They still want you stuck in their little ecosystem and don't want you out. It is for their own good reasons, to protect their products from being hacked and therefore becoming unsafe to use. Apple's going through a big lawsuit at the moment where the FBI is trying to unlock one of their iPhones that was used in a terrorist attack. And Apple refused to actually allow them access to it. And the reason they're refusing that access is because they would have to write software that would do this. They don't have there's no back door, there's no button they can press that lets them into the phone. But they said, yes, technically we could try and write some software, but if we do it once, it's open to everybody. And yes, we might just give it to the FBI, but if somebody hacks the FBI and gets a hold of that, everybody's iPhone's vulnerable. So it is a case of being really careful about what they do and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it is a mixture of releasing it to everybody, but keeping a secure, small device for yourself.
Indeed. Now, if you'll forgive me before we sort of get into the biographical stuff, I do have to ask, we met in Black Comics and Collectibles, of course, and I did notice when I went and had a look at your website before the chat, you did put up a spoiler-free review of the just-released Superman vs. Batman Dawn of Justice. From the sounds of it, you're definitely a comic book fan. So, what are you geeking out about at the moment? What are you reading? What are you watching? Yeah, what's comic book-wise, what are you enjoying right at the moment?
Well, I am definitely a geek. I've got everything you can imagine. I'm wearing this Batman t-shirt right now, actually. That's just normal wear for me. Yes, definitely went and saw Superman Batman. Of course, day of release, I went and saw it at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I think it was the second showing in Cairns. But I wanted to see it in 3D. I know a lot of people don't like 3D movies, but to me, if I'm going to go pay for a movie, I'm going to watch it in the best possible I can in 3D. I'll do the whole lot and go for it. And to me, it was worth it. I think they did quite well with some of the effects to make it really pop out in 3D for the Batman Superman movie. Deadpool was another one. Absolutely love the Deadpool movie. Hilarious movie. Again, very similar to the game where it's not as a critics would say, it's not a great movie, but the fun and the story and the going on behind the scenes with that's what keeps you going. If you know anything about Deadpool, that's great. At the moment, I'm reading Hack Slash. That was a recommendation from Mel at Kasplat there. I again like Deadpool and all that. And one of the things I kept saying was that they don't show it quite as graphically as I would have liked. I'm 33 years old now, 32 years old, and so you sit there and you go, well, I don't know if I want to read a PG magazine, a book, if I could get away with reading something a bit more graphical. Hence, even in one of the Deadpools I just read, he had a grenade and he stuck it inside the head of another monster and blew up. But they don't show all that. So Mel decided to push me onto Hack Slash, which is a little bit more intense. So yeah, definitely interesting.
So, do you remember? It must be particularly hard because, I mean, you mentioned you're 33. Pardon me, one of the Easter weekend warriors is out on his Harley at the moment, and it doesn't help that I live next to a service station. But anyway, look, as I was saying, you're 33, I'm 38, and, you know, even at the end of the 70s, we were sort of getting into that point where digital technology was really starting to get into people's homes. I mean, I remember growing up with a BBC Model B home computer, and then following that, a Commodore VIC-20. I was never quite console enabled as a lot of youngsters in the 80s and 90s were. But do you sort of remember a formative moment when you were young, when you sort of just encountered technology and got exploring, felt that excitement, and maybe sort of realised, holy crap, this is, you know, not necessarily this is the wave of the future moment, but a holy crap, this is for me moment?
Yeah, definitely. When I was a kid, my grandparents bought us an Osborne computer, and it was one of the big old grey or beige boxes with the turbo button, which I still don't know if they actually did anything, the good old turbo buttons on the computers. But I love that thing, and it was a bit of a playing with a friend. I'm not a as you said, I'm not a developer. I don't write code. I can't really read it, but I can look at code, understand what parts are what, and then I can modify. Bit of a script kiddie, as they like to say. So on my old Osborne, we used to write little programs and bits and pieces, and more so I'd love to get hold of other programs. And back then there was very little security, no DRM or anything like that, and modify it, make it do whatever the heck I wanted to. So I'd play my video games on my computer with no gravity and just flying around doing whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted. Definitely very cool at that. I was also always be called the Inspector Gadget or Geek Man. I'd always carry a bag full of toys that when I was a kid. I had the calculator watch, and it's quite ironic because now I have a Samsung Galaxy S watch. It's the original one, and it's probably the same size as my good old calculator watch, but it's all digital, and I can use it as a calculator, use it for a lot more. In fact, it's a mobile phone in its own right. But I had that. I had gaming watches. I've had anything I could grab as a kid that had any sort of technology in it. I'd always love to get in there, play with it, and then really modify it. Try and make it do something that it wasn't supposed to do, and see what it could actually do.
The thought occurred to me, especially now, of course, if you are listening to this podcast, you can't see this. It is a video chat that Shane and I are having. Unfortunately, as I may have explained with the episode that I did with Ross Barber, video chats, I don't quite have the technology to put together just yet, and that'll take a bit of investment before I do that. But it seems incredible. I mean, I was watching you there with that Samsung watch on your wrist, and I couldn't help but think of Dick Tracy and the good old days of the video phone watches that I think he had, and how for a while there they were kind of scoffed at, like you'd ever have one of those, and now, quite quietly they just suddenly seem to have been introduced, and I don't know whether they're quite the hot new thing as maybe the Apple iPhone was when it first came out. It just seems to be more of a the diehards and the early adopters will get, but it doesn't quite have that same wow factor amongst the general public that, the early smartphones, the completely touch-screen smartphones did. It's almost like we're going, I suppose, it's just the next iteration. It's not the groundbreaking thing,
Yeah, but it's actually funny. If you go back in technology, it's always sort of a little bit been this way. I remember, you think about it, your computers. Computers were the size of a house, and very few people could have them. Then they got to the size of something you put on your desk, and then again they were quite expensive, and they sort of had less people could get them. Then we had started getting laptops, smaller computers. Next thing you know, there was multiples around the house, and nowadays, it's actually ironic. These days, there's less computers in people's houses and more smartphones in people's houses, sort of iterations up. But wearable technology is going through the same thing. The one that you sort of see a lot more in public is things like your Fitbits and things like that. A lot of people do wear those tracking and all that sort of stuff, and they don't really realize, but a lot of that technology that's in there is because of these big smartwatches and stuff like that I use, that they just sort of take certain bits out, make it smaller, lighter, look prettier, and then they can send it out to the general public. The general public do jump on those sorts of things, and then eventually will work up. The iPhone itself is the same sort of idea. We all think of the iPhone as this first bit of smartphone technology, touchscreen. It's amazing. But Microsoft, years and years before that, with Palm, actually released a touchscreen phone that was completely touchscreen phone a long time before. You used to have to use styluses and that sort of stuff, but it was a long time before that, but it was only early adopters, people that really wanted to play with this new technology and that jumped on it. And I've got to say, I did have one of those phones. I'm definitely an early adopter. I jump on anything I can that looks cool. VR is the latest one I'm going through at the moment. I've have the Samsung Galaxy Gear VR headset. So you put your Samsung phone in it, and you get into the virtual world, you can look around. And I got this, I think I was one of the first 2 or 3 people in Australia to actually get a hold of one of these. And it was really cool. Even just from the beginning, there was only a couple of videos you could show people, a demonstration, that was about it. But these days, there's so much more in there. You can even hire movies and watch them in there. So it's an evolution that does slowly bring in. The that, again, early adopted idea that you were saying, whereas the public stuff is more for, like, your PlayStation 4 is about to release a virtual reality helmet that'll come with the PlayStation 4. Sony and a few other people are looking at a DVD player that will work with a virtual reality helmet. Very lightweight, very small, but it'll just make you feel like you're in a cinema and all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of this, let's throw everything we can into this big, giant technology, this new thing, the smartwatch, the Samsung big virtual reality helmets, and then they go, oh, only early adopters like it, there's problems because of this. All right, let's just take what does work and make it into a smaller thing, release that to the general public, let that build up to a point where everyone then will just jump on it and take over.
Yeah.
So
I will say for something that has been kind of in the public conceptual space, as it were, since the 90s. I mean, I remember VR was kind of all the rage back then, especially, when you were probably one of those look back and laugh moments nowadays, that wonderful movie, The Lawnmower Man.
yeah.
Which I've got to admit, I do kind of hold a bit of a soft spot for, as ludicrous in some ways as it was. VR, at least to my mind, does seem to be one of those things that, it's still got a little bit of that cool factor that perhaps, a smartwatch doesn't nowadays. People are still a little bit, maybe a little bit wondrous at this thing.
Yeah, they are. I think it's because it can take a completely different, take you into a completely different world. A smartwatch and that, people look at it and they go, oh, that's cool, but then they can quickly see that it's something that just sits there. I wear this watch every day, and I use it all day, every day. It gets my messages and bits and pieces. I find that I'm less stressful because I can look down and go, oh, it's an email, I'll ignore that, I'll deal with it another time. But other people sort of look at it and they think, oh, that could be a problem. I don't want to be harassed all the time and that. Whereas something like VR, people are starting to go, oh, this could be something I could really get into, something that could take over as a pastime. I put it on, I use it, I put it away, a sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can see movie cinemas. Well, already there's some roller coasters that are doing it. So you're in a roller coaster, you put on the virtual reality helmet, so you're not just going along with the movements. They actually have a video that goes along. So now you're on a roller coaster in space, and you're flying around, and if you touch the side of your screen, you can actually shoot. And so as you're going along in the roller coaster and you're actually physically moving in that, you're actually shooting and playing the video game on the roller coaster.
My God, it's an actual real-life rail shooter.
Yes, exactly. And so it does have that, virtual reality has this thing where it is taking people out of their normal world into a completely new world, and it does have that wow factor. Augmented reality or mixed reality is the other version of this. This is what Microsoft's doing with their HoloLens, if there's people out there that know what that is.
I think Google Glass also was meant to be an iteration of this.
Yes. Yeah, that was the very first one of them, and it worked really well for what they wanted. Again, it was just notifications, some things that popped up in your vision, but the real full thing of augmented reality or mixed reality is being able to not have a TV in my house, but if I look at a wall, that wall is programmed to always be a TV in my vision. So I wear a pair of glasses and that'll be the TV, or I can have virtual things floating around and interacting. If you do have a chance to look up the Microsoft HoloLens stuff on YouTube, it is absolutely amazing. We're nowhere near the technology that they show off. Again, this is a prototype. This is an idea of what they're going to get to. But yeah, this is something that's going to be pretty cool when it comes out. I think I didn't get I didn't get a developer kit version of that, and I did get offered to buy one. It was $3,000 to buy it, so I couldn't quite afford that. So I haven't got a HoloLens, but hopefully I'm hoping with the next developer kit or the next version of the HoloLens that they do bring out like that, they'll make a cheaper version for people like myself that aren't going to be using it to develop, but just to play with, to learn how this works, so that way we can take it to the general public and show them how it works, and yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
Cool. Makes me think of, I mentioned the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 that you were discussing with me back at Curse and I remember the first time I heard the word Surface from Microsoft, it wasn't in relation to a tablet. it was this idea of having, they showed it off as a table-based interface where it was the screen was actually projected up from underneath this glass table, which itself was touch sensitive, and you could put business cards with QR codes on it down, or bank cards with QR codes down on the surface, and it would interact with them and perform transactions as you wished. And it's just incredible to see, when you were talking about this prototype of the HoloLens and the technology not quite being there yet, the way that when Surface was introduced, it was introduced as this thing that wasn't quite what it is now, where it's it's the familiar format of a tablet rather than something big that was going to be a stationary installation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. They are actually doing the big TV ones, the full-size TV ones. They are very, very expensive. I think they're like $43,000 for a 42-inch version that you put on your wall. Multi-touch, and it's got, what do you call it? Near-field technology. So when you touch your phone to it, same as when you tap your phone on a Bluetooth speaker or something like that. So if you touch your phone on the screen, it could pop up and do more stuff. But as what you were saying, it's actually very similar to what they have in the car industry, where we have prototype cars, and they always look so cool, and they show off all those really, really cool stuff that they can do, and then they go, and then this is what we're releasing this year. And everyone just goes, oh, we wanted the other one.
Yeah,
give us the cool-looking car. So it is very much that way with technology. And we have at the moment, we're going through a bit of a thing with that when it comes to these self-funded or public-funded ideas that people come up with. So people come make a video of this, if it be a band on their wrist and this phone pops up as a projected onto their skin. I know a lot of people have seen that. I get sent it on the internet all the time. And so instead of having an actual phone, it just projects this image of a phone, and then you touch that and it interacts. And it looks very cool, but it couldn't work with the technology we have just now. But the idea is they're showing this, saying, hey, if you fund us, we're going to work towards making this a reality. And so everybody's jumping on board of these bigger, better ideas, and it looks good, but it is putting a lot of people down for disappointment when they actually get their hands on some of this stuff.
Of course.
So,
yeah. All right, well, I think we've taken a bit of a digression, which is absolutely bags of fun, I've got to admit, but I do have to sort of keep this a little bit on topic. So, I mean, you mentioned when you were young, you embraced technology at an early age with your first Osborne computer. You had your bag of kit that you always took around with you when you were young. While technology as a job, it's been a fairly obvious choice. I mean, we've there have probably been jobs in technology since, as you mentioned, those computers the size of a house were out in the 40s, and even when I was young, working for IBM or one of the bigger companies, or however you could get into it, was seen as a legitimate career. But what was your first exposure to being able to monetize your love of technology? Were you sort of aiming for a career in tech, or did you come at it from another angle?
I definitely came at it from another angle, more of a personal angle. I actually, at school, I used to play with computers at the school. I was the bad boy that used to hack the computers and send messages around and show the other kids what we could do with the computers. I left school and I actually did an apprenticeship as a refrigeration mechanic. And so that was, again, there is a lot of technology in that. I did it for like Coles, Woolworths, Coca-Cola. So these are big companies, and they have special programs, special devices to maintain certain temperatures and all that. So there's a lot of technology playing with that. But it really was just a case of me always wanting to play with the latest stuff, always watching videos, going to YouTubes and all that sort of stuff. Obviously wasn't that when I first started. There was no YouTube or anything like that. I think Twitter's even only 10 years old this next year. Oh, no, this year, in July this year. Yeah, 10 years old.
They've been putting the thank you notices up all over everybody's Twitter feeds, yes.
Twitter feeds, yeah. So there wasn't a lot then, but as that grew, my interest just kept with it. I just kept following it and kept going. And it really was the idea of seeing what was possible with these devices. Having a printer. Well, why does the printer have to run to a cable? Could we do it wireless? Is there some way of getting around that that I used to do on my own that eventually got me into the idea of going, well, I should be able to do this for other people. I should make it easier for people. I hate it when you see somebody that goes to a shop, they buy a device, they come home and they're told that it's so simple to set up, so easy to do, but it never is. And I love to explain that to people. I said, it is simple for someone like myself that does play with this, that does know these things, but they don't, the people that design it and the people that explain that aren't that, they think like I do, they don't think like you do. So it's just a different way of doing things. I'm no good with a car, I can't pull my engine apart, I take it to a mechanic. So these days with technology, when you want something to work and work right, yes, you can do it yourself, just like I can go and try and work on my own car, but if I want it to work perfectly and I want to make sure everything's right, you go to a mechanic, or go to somebody that can actually do it for you. And if I can set it up, make it work perfect and show you just a couple of buttons that you need to know, there's no need to teach you how to set up these things or anything like that. It's more of how to use it rather than how to set it up or work it sort of thing. Yeah, it's definitely a different idea of how it works, but that was my idea when I started the Geek Cave, was to be able to go out and help people like my grandparents, like family members that were getting this new technology. A lot of them were just given it for birthday presents, Christmas presents, but had no idea how to use it or what to do to do it. And they would call me, I'd show them what to do, and then I went, well, I should be able to help other people do this stuff, and thought, yeah, this would be great, I'll monetize it, but then just felt sorry for people and didn't charge anything. So
it does sort of seem to be one of the toughest struggles when it comes to actually getting paid to play, or at least, starting your own business. Is this problem with standing up for your rate? I mean, you've mentioned that another one of the issues you had was the sheer amount of paperwork that was involved. And look, I just have to ask, I mean, you've mentioned you're 33 now. When did the Geek Cave actually start as your initiative?
As the Geek Cave itself was probably about 3 years ago that it started. I was working in IT and technology for big businesses, doing managing servers and emails and all that sort of stuff. And in that, we used to get asked a lot of questions, and I'd do bits and pieces for people. But that company that I was working for was starting to shut down. So the idea was, should I go into a new company, or should I just try and do this myself? So I did it myself. I actually took over a lot of the clients that I had with the existing company, but then I started doing other things on the side. So yeah, it was sort of an evolution of what I was doing, and picking and choosing the jobs I wanted out of it to make it work.
So you were actually between the Geek Cave and your job as a refrigeration specialist, you did actually get a job in big-time corporate IT, from the sound.
Yeah, I completely missed that bit when I was talking about it before. But yeah, basically what I did was I did refrigeration mechanic. I did a 4-year apprenticeship. I had some time off, and probably about a year and a bit. And during that time, I actually went around and did lots of different jobs. I'm a big advocate for getting out there and just trying different things. Then I came back and started doing refrigeration again. And then during that time, my father-in-law actually asked me to come and help him build a couple of radio stations up the Cape in Queensland. And he was doing as IT and radio. He does this sort of mix thing. So I started with that. And as we built the radio stations, we got them going, they were a one-off. That was a one-off project. We built that. So then we had to get more income for doing IT stuff. So then we started going around locally, getting more local businesses involved, and like I said, a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of healthcare centers and stuff like that, where we'd set up file servers and email servers, website stuff, and all that sort of thing for them. And yeah, that sort of kept that evolution going into this. But I did do a little bit of radio in that time, because although those building projects were a one-off, some small maintenance bits and pieces. And one of my other big geeky things has always been radio. I actually started a pirate radio station when I was in school. we actually ran out of the janitor's closet at our school, in Malanda, up on the Tablelands, if anyone knows where that is. Yeah, we actually had a pirate radio station. I helped set up one in Port Douglas, on Mossman, I should say, not Port Douglas.
Another pirate radio station or a legitimate?
No, that one was a legitimate one. That was a community one I helped set up and organise. And then I've always just done bits and pieces with the radio. In fact, the company I work for now, which is Grant Broadcasters, which is all over Australia, but there's Zinc and 4CA in Cairns. And I actually used to do work for them whenever they have broadcasts outside or needed help with technology stuff that was just locally on the ground. I'd do those sorts of things. Hence, when the full-time job got asked for, I jumped on it thinking, oh, well, I'm already doing the stuff. Seems like another evolution. Let's move on to the next thing, see what I can try.
Yeah. Well, look, there is that one thing that I do want to talk about before we get on to working full-time for the radio station, and I think it's worth discussing because it seems to be a problem that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're taking something that comes from them and then putting it out there as a product or a service. You mentioned that a lot of on several occasions when you were working for yourself and being that local technology specialist, optimizing the setup and user experience for people, that you would tend to feel a little bit sorry for them, and then not charge them for the time that you would put in. Can you tell us a little bit more about those situations, and perhaps paperwork aside, that kind of struggle to say, perhaps to see your own time as something, and the use of that skill as something that you could stand up and say, okay, I've given you my advice. I'm confident in it. I trust that it is benefiting you, and I can see that it is benefiting you. So please, here's my rate. I'm happy to take your money. Can you tell us a bit about that struggle?
Yeah, it was a struggle, and it was a personal struggle more than anything else, because I never actually once had somebody say no, they didn't want to pay, or ever say that my rate was too high or anything like that, ever. It literally was just on me, and it was a feeling that it's sort of, you could almost say it's like a self-worth thing, that I sit there and I think, am I personally really worth that to do these sorts of things for them? Or a lot of time in technology is sitting around not doing much. If somebody gave me their laptop and asked me to help clean it up, get viruses and spam and all that off it, I'd do that sort of stuff. But a lot of that was just sitting there while scanners were going through or updates were running and all that. So they're making me a cup of coffee and I'm sitting there talking to them, but I'm not actually working. And it was and again, no one ever once said to me, oh, you're just sitting around doing nothing. But it just, to me, was such a hard thing to deal with, was feeling like I have to charge these people for doing nothing. And at the same time, knowing in my head that, yes, this is something that they couldn't do themselves, and that's why they're getting me in to do it. But it was just a real difficulty. And that's a big thing. I think it really takes a certain type of person to be able to do these things, to be able to really know that, yes, almost there's two sorts of people. One that says, yes, I can really do this and I'm worth the money and pay me for what I'm worth. And 99% of the time, I bet you people are out there saying, yep, I will pay you that money. I think you're worth it as well. And then there's the people like myself that sit there and say, I've done it and I know what it's worth, but I sort of feel like I'm not really doing what I could do more maybe, or something like that. So it's a really tough one to go through.
Yeah. It is a tough one, I've got to admit. I mean, from my perspective, it almost does seem, let's face it, even if you're sitting there not doing much, it is still kind of time out of your day. You are presumably travelling to these people's places, and or were in some cases, were they coming to you?
They would come to me sometimes, but a lot of the time it's a lot easier to go to them, because then I could see multiple different things, especially if there was somebody's house and they had printers or family members and they all wanted to be linked up to the same thing, setting up Apple TVs on their TV units. And actually that would be something I would do. If I'm sitting and scanning their computer, we'd be talking and then they'd mention something about, I've always wanted to do the Netflix thing. And I go, well, you've got something over there that can do it. I can set that up for you. So while that's doing that, I can go over and help you and set that up as well, and we'll get that working, and I do more and more. And that then would make me feel like, yeah, I'm doing my worth. But again, it's so hard to explain. I do feel like I was doing my best for them, and I was worth the time and effort. And I know that they felt that way because, again, no one's ever said no. They always thought it was a good idea, but it was just so, I don't know, something in me that was really difficult to do it. And so that's a hard push, something to make yourself go, yes, I need the money, so please give me the money, and they will do it. But yeah, it was more on myself.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky thing to look at externally because it is tempting from an outsider's perspective to sort of be a little bit judgmental on that and say, it's fear getting the better of you, push your comfort zone a bit, stand by yourself, your business. But then again, sometimes one of the main things that I think getting paid to play helps you with, and I think that's one of the ideas of why I try and explore it, and why why I do this podcast and try and encourage people to do it, is that it's really about listening to yourself, not just in terms of this is something I enjoy and I think other people have value in it, but sometimes maybe your instincts are telling you something in terms of the things that you can, that idea of getting paid to play, that your instincts are telling you, yes, I have something here. This has value no matter what everyone else might think. And sometimes it might not just be fear or a lack of, self-confidence, which is, of course, an offshoot of fear. It might be that your instincts, despite all external evidence, are telling you something that you need to listen to, that you need to heed for the sake of your own sanity. And those same reasons are that, and I'm sort of babbling on a bit here. I'll try and gather it together and make a bit more sense. It's that same listening to your instinct that got you to where you are in terms of getting paid to play. So just as you listened to it then, for that same reason is why you should listen to it now. So it's, it is kind of a tough thing, as I said, it's tempting to be judgmental on that and say, it's just fear that you need to get over, but maybe there is something inside Shane Gibson that's telling him that's not the way you want to be doing business. That's going to drive you, that's going to make you not you. That's going to drive you nuts or make you too mercenary.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to me was that feeling like, and it's this pay to play thing too. To me, it's fun. Like, I always enjoy doing it. People come get me over and they'll say, "Oh, can you get this to do that?" And I set it all up and I get to play with these new devices that they've got, make it all work. And even if things would go wrong, to me that was almost an excitement because then I'd go, "Oh, something's not right. Oh, why? Can I figure that out?" And so it was almost, it becomes a fun thing. So again, it's that feeling of, I'm doing this for fun and they're paying me to do this for fun. But footballers do that. Movie stars do that. They enjoy what they do and they get paid to play and do it themselves. So yeah, that's why one of the big things that got me excited when I heard about your podcast was this idea and saying, well, yeah, people do get paid to play to do things, and I enjoy doing it. I liked getting paid for what for playing with it, and I sort of feel like I do that now almost with the radio. I do enjoy that, so I get paid to play it. But I think it does help people if they can get out there and do it and be paid for what they love doing. They do feel better about it. It's just making that sort of figuring out what's the best way of doing it that makes me feel comfortable and makes my clients feel comfortable. And again, I never had a client that didn't think it was worth it. I never actually had someone come back and go, no, it wasn't worth the money or wasn't rah. They were always happy with what it did. Only times that I really got any problems was when I was just too busy and couldn't get back to people. That would be one of the other issues. But yeah, it wasn't Yeah, and I think that is something that a lot of people would find in their own pay-to-play, is that people do, if it is something that they value, if it's something that they want, then they're more than happy to pay to get it working for them or get it happening for them. So.
Now, before we do move on to your current position within the local radio scene, a lot of people, when they do think about getting paid to play, they sometimes don't realise that it means they are taking on a lot of what can still be drudge work. And from the sounds of things, one of the reasons why you got into radio, as you've already said a couple of times, was the bloody paperwork of being, in your own business. I mean, to my mind, the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, all the tax stuff that as an owner-operator of your own business, the government requires of you to do. What was that? Tell us a bit about the frustrations of that and what the requirements were. And also tell us, what other elements of, administration were there that really turned you off working for yourself?
That was a really, really big factor to me. And I tried things. I did MyOb online. I'm an advocate for these different sort of like not streaming, but subscription-based things. So MyOb was an online system they've got now. So what I could do was take a photo of my receipts, it would upload it. So they try and make it as easy as possible. But to me, it just wasn't what I was enjoying, and I wanted to be off playing with the computers and playing with the technology that people had, rather than sitting at home and taking photos of receipts and making sure that this balanced out to that. And something that really did get to me is the tax stuff, where I don't understand it. I do not know what I should be ticking in boxes and if I should be charging GST or whatever. And I think a big part of something I should have done was go to somebody and get help for it. Would have been a big thing to begin with. I do it with so many other bits and pieces. I'm not a designer. My wife does a lot of designing stuff. So if I need websites, logos, something like that, I talk to her about that. I'm no artist in any way, but for some reason, when it came to taxes, although I know I have no idea what I'm doing, I didn't go out and get the help that I needed with it to find out what I should have done from the beginning. And that was a big point from the very beginning. I needed to talk to somebody before I started. And then I might have been able to continue along on my own if I'd had that from the beginning. Because, yeah, I think one big thing for me was GST. I marked straight off the bat, I better charge GST in case I go over and all this sort of stuff. But that became a huge issue where I'd have to every 3 months send this form in and do that. Then there would be, you've got to send this much tax money in, then we'll refund this much back. And it just got so confusing, so not interesting to me that I just went, I'm done.
Will you excuse me a second, Shane? Sorry, but the phone is ringing. I better grab it just in case.
No problem.
Okay, so where were we? That's right, we were talking about paperwork. And you'd said that one of your main problems was the fact you've been charging for GST, and then there was that struggle with the form you had to fill in quarterly, and how the money seemed to be going back and forth with the tax office.
Yeah, trying to work out exactly how much goes which way. That's always the fun thing.
So, so from the sounds that definitely was one of the paperwork issues. But you mentioned that you'd been using MYOB online to try and track things and scan all your receipts and that kind of thing. And you mentioned it was just one of those things that could you? I mean, obviously the answer is that you did not, but it seems like what stopped you at least then from saying, okay, I need help with this, or was it just that the offer for the job at the radio station came around at exactly the right time, and you thought, all right, I'll do this instead?
Yeah, that is literally what happened. I was thinking about it, and I was even I had somebody in mind that I was going to talk to. In fact, I'm still going to to finish off and get everything cleaned up. But so yeah, the plan was that I would talk to her and we'd get everything organised. But then this job offer came up. I didn't actually think I was going to get it, so I was going to keep making sure I wasn't going to lose out, and kept my other business going. But then when I got accepted, I went, oh well, this just seems to be the what to do. This seems to be what I'm meant to do is leave that and try move on to something else. But at the same time, it did mean that I didn't have to give up completely, because I can still do that work. I just don't do it full time. I do it sort of as a part-time thing, and I think that became almost a better thing for me in a way, because it meant that I didn't feel like I was I feel better when I go to people's places and do help them out and do bits and pieces, because I'm not doing it as a full-time job, and I don't feel like I'm having to demand and expect to be charged and paid at a certain rate. I can sort of go with the flow, work to what I feel like I'm worth, or what I'm doing is worth. And yeah, that to me has worked out better in the long run. But I think definitely, even if I did get help when I needed it, I think I probably would have changed the way I was doing things to work into this way, to be able to get to a point where I could, pick and choose what I wanted to do and the rates and the work I needed.
You've already talked a lot about what your job in the radio involves, and especially the way things are going fully digital. But is there anything about the job that we perhaps not already discussed? I mean, is it, from the sounds of it, it's straight up 9 to 5 hours? Is that right?
Not quite. I'm on call all the time, which is difficult. I actually cover 3 different locations: Cairns, Townsville and the Northern Territory for Grant Broadcasters. So I look after the radio stations in all those locations. So I'm on call 24/7 and could get messages. I get paid 9 to 5, but then I get time in lieu, so I can sort of take the time I need to. And they are very flexible, which has let me still be able to do my tech stuff and play and do stuff like that. Hence, I got to go to the movies at 3 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday because I just felt like it. So that was one of the big things that decided to get into there. I've always liked radio. I like talking. I like giving advice and bits and pieces, as I said before. I do training. I'm a firefighter locally up here, and part of what I do is training people in stuff, so it's getting up and talking. So radio's always just been an interest. When the job came up in the commercial side, so bigger and better ideas, technology and stuff to play with, that's what really got my attention and got me wanting to get involved in it.
From the sounds of it, it's definitely been a good move for you, but on the other hand, it does mean that you are on call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that in itself, I mean, the flexibility is a benefit, of course, but I mean, I imagine you have to have your mobile on while you're in that cinema watching Batman vs. Superman.
And I got 12 messages from Darwin during the movie telling me that the radio station had gone on, off, because they had a big storm at the time. So, and I was lucky enough that each of those messages, and I knew there was a storm coming, that I could just go, yep, I know what that is. Yep, I know what that is. Yep, I know what that is. But now I want to watch the movie again just because there was certain scenes that you go, I missed certain things because I was looking down at the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, unfortunately that's the way it goes. I've been used to being on call most of my working career. As a refrigeration mechanic, I was always on call. And then when I started as a firefighter nearly 9 years ago now, so I've been on call 24/7 for fireys since then. So I'm very much used to being on call. So this isn't a big deal for me. Also, there's not a lot that goes wrong. It's a radio station. Things run smooth. It's usually when either there's a big storm or some silly person's pressed the wrong button that I get a phone call. So, yeah.
What do you reckon, if anything, is next for Shane Gibson? Are there some intriguing prospects on the horizon, or even just some new bits of technology that you're looking forward to playing at? Well,
there's always new stuff that's coming. at the moment, virtual reality and wearable technologies are the two things I'm very interested in, and where they're going, and then what they can do for people. This watch I'm wearing now, it can do my heart rate. It vibrates and does notifications and bits and pieces. So one of the things I've been thinking about and talking to Samsung about with it is my wife's grandfather is deaf. And he doesn't know that there's somebody at the door. Well, he's not completely deaf. He wears hearing aids and that.
I see what you mean. Could be a benefit to a relative who has a hearing problem.
Yeah, and not just the hearing problem. It could be benefit to a lot of things. And I think wearable technology is something that's going to become a lot more prevalent. We're not even going to realize. Things like this watch where, like I said, I can get notifications. It's got a good bright screen on it. So if somebody came to the door, ring the buzzer, my watch could vibrate and I could look down and see a picture of who's out there. So without even having to get off the couch, I could get up. But where this is nowadays, I should be able to press a button, the door can unlock, the person can let themselves in. So that'd be really handy for my father-in-law, great-grandfather-in-law who has issues with that. He also has had heart surgery recently. This watch does heart rate. So this could technically just sit there on his wrist, monitoring and keeping a track of his heart rate throughout the entire day, and then they could pull that information off the watch and read it, or if he's hooked to the internet, he could have it literally live streaming to a hospital that could keep a monitor of it, and if they see something going off or wrong, they could quickly contact him and say, hey, look, are you feeling okay? Or did your watch just fall off? Something like that. So wearable technology is something that is becoming a lot more prevalent. Like you said, it's not exciting technology as for the general public, but it's actually going to become more useful technology for the general public. There's already T-shirts that Nike and all those are coming out with that can read your heart rate, they can tell how much you're sweating and all that. I've seen things where they can actually determine how much sweat you've lost, therefore you must drink this much water to compensate, or you've lost this much minerals, or the sweat that you've got hasn't got enough minerals in it, you need to restock your mineral intake or something like that. Shoes that can tell you if you're walking correctly, so you're not damaging your ankles, your knees and all that sort of stuff. Wearable technology is going to be something that is going to start popping up in everyday things, but it's not going to be an exciting big thing that people are going to go, oh wow, isn't this great? It's more going to be, oh yeah, my thing does that, or this also does that. Phones these days, I know my Note 4, it can take my heart rate, it can do my oxygen sensing levels and all that sort of stuff. So it is quite amazing that this small technology that can be on a person and help a person without a lot of interruption to their everyday life. I think the biggest thing at the moment is the battery power. Running out of battery is the biggest point of it. I get about 2 days out of my watch, which to me, who's used to having to charge my phone every single night, that's not a big deal. But I can imagine to somebody who's used to having a watch that they've only put a battery in every 10, 20 years, isn't going to really want to be having to charge their watch every day.
No.
No. But there is new versions coming out. There's a new watch coming out that'll give you 1 month of battery life, because it it has a screen on it that basically works like a normal watch until you press a button, then another screen lights up, which uses up most of your battery power, so you can actually have it and use it for nearly a month or over a month without having to charge it. So the technology is coming there and will one day just become, you'll buy a watch and you won't even realize it'll be a smartwatch, it'll do stuff. But the health benefits involved in that are going to be really quite handy.
Well, there is one thing I have to ask on the subject of health. It's probably something that you might hear a fair bit. And it's always kind of an underlying concern, especially as we're moving into this era of wearable technology. I think it's been something that has been discussed ever since human portable, perhaps not just human portable, but practical human portable mobile phones have been available to the general public. The fact that you are basically carrying around an electronic device which does generate an electronic field, but not only that, especially with wearable technology needing to communicate And even with current generation technology, of course, they have to have these high frequency electromagnetic broadcasters and receivers as part of them. What is your perspective on the concern that does come up every now and again of the possible, I guess, the likelihood of ill effects that might be caused by being surrounded by so much electromagnetic radiation?
It is a very hard one to know. Unfortunately, there's not been any really good tests. Any experiments that have been done have been either on the behalf of people that are for it or against using technology, so there's not really an independent one. Personally, I think that there is issues with it, and depends on how you use it and what you do can affect those things. Wearable is the biggest part of that. With any of these things, it's all about waves. Everything we do is waves. We got light waves, sound waves, microwaves. Bluetooth is a different wave. Wi-Fi is a different wave format. They literally are waves at frequencies. And you imagine a wave has a peak and a trough. So if you're wearing a piece of technology and it's broadcasting a frequency and it's literally got that same peak and trough at the same point every single time, that means that there is certain cells in your body that are hitting that peak and trough at the same time. So it does worry that one cell could affect and then it could multiply and go forth, similar to what happens with radiation. And that's the biggest part of radiation. Standing next to something that's radioactive isn't going to kill you. If you're there for a short amount of time, it's the breathing in of the particles and then them being part of your body and then them being stuck at a certain set location and then radiating to hit certain cells at the same time. It's very complicated and can get quite in depth, but it is a worry with these smaller ones. So what a lot of the companies are trying to do is go for these lower powered version or a oscillating sort of frequency things that they can do. A lot of people would, well, it's hard to say, but some people may notice that Bluetooth isn't as strong as it used to be. I know with my old Bluetooth devices, I could walk around the entire house without it dropping in and out at all. Some of devices you can put in your pocket and it'll drop out straight away, Bluetooth headphones and stuff like that. So the reason for that is the Bluetooth headphones have a very, very low powered frequency that it goes on, the idea being that it's not putting so much electromagnetic waves through your body at that one time. So it is literally a mix between the two because no one has a 100% answer, yes, it will definitely cause you ill effects, or no, it definitely won't. So you sort of got to err on the side of caution and say, oh, this may do it, so try and limit different things. Some of the funny things you can do with that, and one thing I do notice is people seem to think mobile phones is a big one, and yes, it is. It broadcasts on quite a high frequency and a lot of power to be able to reach cells. Ironically, the closer you are to a mobile phone tower, the less likely you are to get damage from your mobile phone because it's not having to broadcast as powerful. So people that are terrified of mobile phone towers, it's actually the other way around. They should be worried about being so far away from that their mobile phone is broadcasting really strongly. But with wearable technology, biggest thing is taking it off. They do promote that. Even in my watch, it says that, yes, it's waterproof. I can have a shower with this and that, but they actually say to take it off and clean it because you are then letting your body, that part of your body, have a rest from those electromagnetic waves at the same time as cleaning and getting in underneath them. I know everyone that's worn a watch for most of their life will know the smell when they take that off. It's not a very nice one. So, but yeah, it's a tough one to 100% say either way because there hasn't been any real independent, as I said, research on it. But it's only time will tell, unfortunately, and it'll be people like me that'll be able to tell it because I'm the one covered, and I'm standing here with 3 or 4 different laptops around me right now, a wearable watch, and all sorts of stuff. So even this, like I said, we're talking on an Xbox One using a Kinect, so that's all doing wireless bits and pieces. I've got a headset that's attached to a wireless controller, which is setting the wireless signals off to my TV. So it's very, very very interesting idea of it all, but yeah, it could be scary if you are worried about that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, as we wind this up, what 3 things have you learned in your time as a technologist, both in the freelance realm and doing it as a permanent job on an on-call basis, that you reckon might help someone who shares your passion, whether it's for technology or something else, and is thinking about turning it into that passion into a source of income?
First thing I've got to say is definitely if you can get paid to play, go for it. It's definitely interesting, fun to do. But the 3 things that you really need to point out is don't be afraid to get help. That was my biggest one. Getting help from the beginning, finding out who can help you out and paying them for it. Putting that little bit of money out front can really help out getting design work done if you need that sort of thing. Or, like I said, accounting if I needed accounting help. That was one of the biggest ones. Another one is people are willing to pay any amount of money, if what they're getting is what they want. I'm a big advocate for, these days you can download stuff free off the internet if you really want to. Well, I don't. I pay for what I actually enjoy, and to me, it makes me feel better for it. I pay for streaming services. If I can pay for podcasting, or if you can jump in and if there's a like affiliate link or something like that, you try and use those things to support that sort of stuff, because it's making that person feel like, yes, they're getting their worth out of what they're doing for you. So everyone is usually advocate for that, and they are willing to do it if they can. So yeah, price yourself in a reasonable thing, and people are willing to be able to help you and pay for your stuff as long as you can. And number 3, I probably just have to say, don't do it. Don't do things alone. I know I said before, get help, but a lot of time just doing it on your own can be really difficult. Sometimes there's time restraints and all that. Try and get somebody else that does similar to you and get them involved in what you do. I know I have people with me that are actually firefighter friends who are also into technology. So in some of the businesses and some of the stuff I do, I actually get them involved as well, because if I'm away in a Northern Territory doing a radio station or something, and we do have an issue, there's other people that can jump in and help out and do those sorts of things with me. So it doesn't let down my clients. It doesn't let down the bits and pieces. Yes, some people would prefer the one person that they're used to dealing with, but a lot of people are very happy for you to be able to suggest someone, hey, look, I'm really sorry, I couldn't make it here today, but this guy can help and get you through, and then when I get a chance, I'll jump back involved. So, yeah, definitely surround yourself with people that can help you to continue doing or take over and do things when you haven't got the opportunity to as well. So, yeah, that'd probably be my 3rd.
Okay. Now, after listening to this episode of the Pay to Play podcast, where can people go to find out more about Shane Gibson, that Geek Caveman?
Okay, I am that Geek Caveman pretty much everywhere. On Twitter, on Tumblr, on Facebook. On Snapchat, I sign up for everything and anything I can get my hands on. Again, it's that part of that first in, got to try it out. But yeah, I'm everywhere. I have thegeekcave.net, which is actually my Tumblr, but it's also, I own the domain name. And on Facebook, that Geek Caveman. Just look me up there, have a read of some of the stuff I do, and definitely shout out. If anyone has any questions about some stuff they want or help with things, definitely ask me. I'm more than happy to give out any and every advice I can. Usually advice and that on websites and information. If it's something quick and easy, there's doesn't need to be a cost in that sort of stuff, so you can just hit them up, ask questions, and if I don't know, I can always point you in the direction of people that can. So yeah,
fantastic. Well, Shane, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, especially as it sort of gave me an opportunity as much as perhaps we might have digressed off topic a couple of times, it was fun to actually, talk about some of those tech issues and some of the toys that we do get to play with every day. So, yeah, thank you very much for a great chat on that front too.
Yes, thank you. I very much enjoyed my time here.